I'm really delighted to be here, and I just want to say that I think that the intent of my coming this evening was for me to give you some encouraging and challenging words. But I have to say to you that I had a chance today to view the work of Jericho partners. I had read about them, heard about them, and I leave here inspired for what is happening in this local community. And we could take this concept, this idea, and replicate it in every city across the country. We could build a mighty kingdom for the work of the Lord. And so I want to just say that I'm inspired by what's been done here. The second thing I want to say, I'm delighted to have with me all of my brothers from Kappa Alpha Psi. If you all just stand, please. All right. There's some at this table, too. I want all of you to stand, all of you to stand, all of you to stand. You can't hide tonight. I want all of you to stand. Please be seated quickly. I'm really delighted to have this opportunity. And sometime I stop on my way home and I watch the children play. And I wonder if they wonder what they will be someday. Some will dream big dreams and make them all come true. Others will dream of things they will never do. We are seeds in God's hands, and where they land, no one knows. Some will land in weeds. Some will land in swampy areas. And some will land in fertile soil. And we're all here this evening because we want to make sure that our children, our young people, regardless of where they start out, land in fertile soil. Now, I'm reminded of a tribe in Kenya. The tribe is called the Maasai tribe. And they're known because they are mighty warriors. They are fierce fighters. They are defenders and protectors of the villages where the women and children live. And if you saw them, they looked like warriors. But I speak of them this evening not because of how they look, not because they are mighty warriors. I speak of them because of the way they greet one another. They don't do it the way we do it. We say good morning. We say good afternoon. We say good evening. But they greet each other with a question. And the question is, how are the children? Not good morning, but how are the children? Not good afternoon, but how are the children? Not good evening, but how are the children? And if in fact the children are well, they will come back and say, the children are well. We're here in this place this evening because the children are not well. In this country, there are too many children who are hungry. Too many children, 15 million, 16 million children who go to bed hungry every night and wake up hungry the next morning. There are too many children who live in poverty. Some 14.5 million children live in poverty. Too many children who run away from home and find themselves sleeping in alleyways and under bridges all across this country. Too many children who wake up in dens of dope and not homes of hope. There are too many children at risk in our society. Too many children who need our help, too many children who need our support. But the children are not well in this country today. They need our help, they need our support, they need our loving, caring attention every chance that we get. It was because of this that in the year 2000, I left a very secure position in Washington, D.C. as a Deputy Assistant Secretary in the Clinton administration and decided that I wanted to spend the rest of my life working on behalf of children who were the most at risk in our society. And those children turned out to be children with one or both parents in prison. And what I discovered was that there are 10.7 million children with one or both parents in prison or on probation or parole. And if we do nothing, 70% of those children will end up in prison themselves. 70% will end up in prison themselves. In fact, I went to a prison and saw in that prison a grandfather, a father, and a grandson, all in the same prison at the same time. And they met for the first time in prison. And as I was leaving, the grandson pulled me aside and said to me, "Dr. Goode, I have a son that I've never seen. Do you think I will see him for the first time in prison too?" And so God reminded me why I left that secure job in Washington to come back and work with this population of children. And over the past 10 years, I've learned in a real way that if loving, caring adults spend 1 hour a week, 2 hours twice a month for at least 1 year in a loving, caring relationship with children, those children can have positive outcomes. And I read all the research. The office which I work for in Philadelphia Public-Private Ventures does most of that research. I've read all the research. And the research says that if a loving, caring adult spend 1 hour once a week or 2 hours twice a month for at least 1 year, that 2/3 of those children improve their behavior. 2/3 of them improve their attendance at school. And 2/3 of them improve their academics. And 90% of them improve their relationship with their siblings, with their peers, and with adults in their lives. So what we know based upon hard research, that it works. But you know, if I had never seen any statistics at all, if I never read any data at all, I know it works because I'm the son of an incarcerated father. And when I was 14 years of age, living in the rural South, my father went to prison. And while he was in prison, my family left the rural South and moved to Philadelphia. And upon our arrival in the city, I was assigned to go to John Bartram High School in Southwest Philadelphia. And upon my arrival and upon my announcement to my counselor that I wanted to go to college, she said, "Forget about college. Don't even think about college. go find yourself a job in a factory and go to work. And I listened to my counselor and ended up finishing high school and ended up spending 1 year working in a tobacco factory. I found it very ironic to leave a tobacco farm in Seaboard, North Carolina, and end up in a tobacco factory in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. But I was fortunate. Like many of the children in the Jericho partnership are fortunate. I was fortunate because I had a pastor and his wife who became, in essence, my big brother and big sister, and who told me I could be in life anything I wanted to be, and told me not to listen to my counselor. And after working a year after leaving high school, they convinced me. In fact, they forced me to go to college, took up money and dollars and nickels and dimes and quarters. There was a lot of money back then, and sent me off to Morgan State University. And I graduated with high honors. And what I found was that 30 years to the day that I arrived in Philadelphia and went to see that teacher, that counselor at John Bartram High School, 30 years to the day, because of the intervention of my pastor and his wife, I was able to raise my right hand and take the oath of office and become the 124th mayor of the city of Philadelphia. And so I tell people as I go around the country, I'm exhibit number one. I'm exhibit number one. That all this stuff of spending time and spending money and spending resources to interface with young people who are at risk works. It worked for me, and it will work for many, many thousands of other children in Danbury and throughout the country. So we started the Amachi program. Amachi is a Nigerian Igbo word that means who knows but what God has brought us through this child. Who knows what, the pastor can take that down. This is a good sermon for this season. Who knows but what God has brought us through this child. And it's people of faith mentoring children of promise. Every child has a promise. Every child has a promise. And so people of faith mentoring children of promise. And we were able to, through this program, to start out with 40 congregations, providing and partnering with us with 10 partners each, 10 volunteers, till 10 mentors each. We're able to, through this process, to end up with 400 volunteers. And what was interesting about this is that after we did that so quickly through these local churches, that President George W. Bush learned about the program and came to Philadelphia in 2002 and personally met with the big brothers and big sisters and the volunteers in this program. And 2 months later announced a $50 million program across the country to mentor children with one or both parents in prison. And because of those efforts, we were able to take this program to every single state, over 100 major cities across the country, and serve through 11 years more than 300,000 children across this country. And so part of this is trying to help these children to achieve their full potential. And someone asked me, why would I, after having been the mayor of the fourth largest city in this country, go from simply running a major city and being a deputy assistant secretary of education, to spend my time going in and out of prisons across this country and working with those children who are most at risk. I tell them that I promised God I was going from success to significance, from success to significance. And that is that I was blessed to become the mayor of the fourth largest city in the country. And my chance and my opportunity and my commitment and obligation now is to give back to those who gave so much to me, to help every single child I can help become all that they can become. And what we learn from this process is that if you really spend this 1 hour once a week, or spend this time working with these children, that you can begin to turn these children around. Yes, children can be transformed. Yes, children can be changed. Yes, this is a transformative process. But transformation is relational. That's the only thing I want you to write down tonight. Transformation is relational. And you cannot get to transformation without going through some type of relationship. And the relationship between a child and an adult is a very, very important one in terms of making this program work. Let me say this to you. We have to, in this business, meet children where they are. Not where we think they ought to be, not where we hope they are, but meet them where they are. What do I mean by that? Let me just tell you a story. And watch Baptist preachers when they start telling stories. I'm going to tell you one story. No, two, three stories. And the first story is this, to make the point. There was a woman who had a tumor in her jaw. And she went to a surgeon. And the surgeon looked at her and said, I can take it out, but it's going to leave your face deformed. She says, Doctor, I know, but I'm told I will not live unless you take it out. And so the surgeon took it out. And so horrific was her face after the surgery, that the husband and the doctor and the wife became speechless. They just sat in a room and said nothing to one another. And after about 2 hours of silence, the woman broke the monotony of silence and asked, will I always be this way? And the doctor said yes. And there was more silence. And then the husband, in an attempt to humor the situation, looked at his wife and said to her, I like it, it's cute. But then he reached over to kiss her. And what he discovered was that the kiss did not work the way it used to work, because she had twisted lips. And so in order to kiss her and accommodate her twisted lips, he had to twist his lips. Anybody here with twisted lips? Anybody here with twisted lips? Is there anybody here with twisted lips? To accommodate children where they are. To meet them where they are. We have to have twisted lips to accommodate them in their circumstance. And then there was another young man that lived in the village, and he heard about this woman who was blind and old and wise. And so he wanted to go and challenge her because he did not believe the hype that was going on. So he went and knocked on her door, and she invited him in. And she says, "Wise old blind lady, I hold in my hand a bird, and I want to know whether this bird is living or dead." And she knew it was a setup. She knew it was a setup. And so she actually thought and paused for too long for the young man. So he spoke out, "Wise old blind lady, is this bird living or dead?" And she thought, and she said, "Young man, I don't know whether the bird in your hand is living or dead. But this I do know, whether that bird lives or dies, it's all in your hands." What happened with our children, what happened with these young people who are at risk in Danbury, what happened to those children who are homeless, who don't have adequate education, who need someone to care about them, children who have issues. What happened to those children is all in your hands. It's really up to you. And the point which I really want to make is that it's not enough just to come here this evening. That will not do what needs to be done. This is not the essence of your support. What you do when you leave here, that's going to matter. I'm running out of time. I only have 20 minutes. My final story is this. There was a man who was watching a football game. It was not the Eagles on Thursday night. Probably New England. Watching a football game, and he said to his son, "Son, go outside and play." He said, "Dad, no, come outside and play with me." So the father says to the son, "This is a good game. The team is about to score. Just give me 5 minutes, and you go outside and play, and in 5 minutes you come back, and then I will go outside and play with you." Son goes outside for 5 minutes, and as 9-year-olds are, came back in 5 minutes on the nose and said, "Dad, 5 minutes up. Come outside and play." Father says, "Son, I know I told you 5 minutes, but the team scored, and the other team is about to score." Sound like the Eagles. And said, "Give me 5 more minutes." Son goes outside and stays 5 more minutes. Come back in. The father said, "I'm still not ready. Just give me one more time." This time, while the son was outside, the father looks on the side of his couch, and he sees this map of the world. And so he says, "I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this map of the world. I'm going to tear it up into small pieces. And I'm going to give it to my son when he comes back in." So the son comes back in, and the father says, "Son, look, take this, put it back together, this map of the world, And when you finish, come back, and I will come outside and play with you. The son takes the map outside and comes back in 5 minutes with the map all put back together. The father was amazed at how in the world did you do it? The son said it was easy. On the other side of the map of the world was the man. And when I put the man back together, the whole world came back together. We can put the world back together for these young people, for these children, if we do what we ought to do, if we make a commitment. Let me close with this. When Joshua stood before the Jordan River, in front of him was the promised land, and in back of him was the wilderness. And so God spoke to him and said, let the priests, let those who care about these people, who care about these children, who care about those who are in the wilderness for 40 years, let them lead the way. And God promised that if the priests lead the way, as soon as their feet touch the water, I will back it up in a heap, and they can walk across on dry land. And for a long time, I read that over and over again because everyone knows that story. But there's a part B to that verse. And part B says, as the priest stood in the riverbed, not in the promised land, as the priest stood in the riverbed, halfway between where they used to be and where they were going, between the wilderness and the promised land, as the priest stood there, that all of the children of Israel left the wilderness and went into the promised land. We have a lot of children in the wilderness. A lot of children standing in the wilderness, waiting for some priests to stand between them and the promised land. With what you do here this evening, you can build that bridge from the wilderness to the promised land for children without hope, for children who wake up hungry every single day, for children who wake up in the morning and no one cares whether or not they go to school or not, for children who go to school and no one cares whether they learn or not. You can be that bridge. You can stand in the riverbed. For children who come home from school and there's no one there who received them, and they're raised by people dealing drugs in their community. Halfway between the wilderness and the promised land. Children who wake up in dens of dope rather than homes of hope. Children who are abused by their parents, abused by their priests, children who are abused by their coaches, children who are abused by other students in school, halfway between the wilderness and the promised land.